This video is sponsored by BJJ Mental Models. Out of all the really great performances of the last year, one athlete really stood out. Winning double gold at ADCC 2024, Adele took the world by storm with wins over top competitors. And in this video, I hope to show how Adele is making the closed guard great again. So let's begin. When most people think of the closed guard, it's hard not to imagine the GOAT, Roger Gracie, known for his unpassable guard and sweeping ability, like in this match versus Buchecha.
Position for Buchecha, if Roger can come up and he can hip up and out.
And he's doing it, 2 points. He got it.
Adele couldn't be more opposite, often competing in the lightest weight classes. She's managed to do something difficult very consistently, and that's submit. But before we jump into the closed guard, first, let's see how she approaches her matches. Adele's go-to is the knee shield. Here, Adele uses her bottom leg to trap her opponent's leg, while her top leg manages distance. We normally teach to keep the knee angled higher, however Adele plays it lower down. This works best when the opponent has both knees on the mat, but when they pop up to their feet, Adele doesn't just give up position, but instead moves into a Z guard, which connects her bottom leg to her top leg for a stronger hold. Keeping her opponent in place, Adele can move between the knee shield and the Z guard, also making use of the reverse de la Hiva when necessary. But what really makes her guard work, and I would even say is the most important part of her game, is her gripping. The grip that Adele uses the most is the tricep grip, and it works very well, especially with the popularity of the Rao drag. The tricep grip is a brilliant alternative that controls your opponent while also keeping you safe. With the tricep grip, you can produce a strong pull that can off balance, and it's hard to counter. I like to play this with my elbow tight to my side to stop the underhook, in addition to being very annoying.
This feels natural, right? You kind of almost protect your face. Instead of me doing all this stuff, getting Rao dragged. But what Adele does, she comes to the tricep.
But Adele can take this up a level. Directly from the tricep grip, Adele can move right into the overhook grip. And I'll be honest here, by the time of filming, I still struggle to get this to work.
Tricep grip, if he starts to bring his weight down, okay, now I don't really have a good pull. So instead, what Adele will do, she'll start coming under.
So let's watch how Adele puts it to use.
Jumping to that closed guard.
She got the overhook and the knee shield, flying arm bars, flying triangles. She's such a fun competitor to watch. Now Adele looking for an arm bar. Oh, she gets the submission.
Adele doesn't use the overhook as a singular hold, but instead uses it in conjunction with gripping her own leg or her own arm for more control, which also leads us into one of her most iconic submissions that we'll take a look at later.
And then she can grab her own leg. She can even grab her own arm. But just keeping this grip, that's something she's really good at, especially when they start pulling their arm out. She locks in, and we'll talk about it later, but this also lends itself for Adele's strongest attack. If you guys watch ADCC 2024, you probably know what I'm talking about. Watch ADCC, guys, you'll see what she does.
After the overhook, the next grip that Adele uses a lot is the over the back grip. Hear me out, it may seem weird at first, but it works so well in gluing you to your opponent that most people can't deal with it. So this can create a lot of openings for your attacks.
I go over his back, behind his head, and it feels kind of weird, but I think that's why it works. It just feels so weird, and I'm trying to pull him into my chest. It's almost like a mother's milk, but from reverse. If he tries to move, it's just kind of weird. I wouldn't overlook that grip because sometimes if we need the off balance, it's pretty strong as well.
Probably the easiest grip to forget about is the collar tie, but Adele uses it in such a way that it's indispensable. And I must say that in those do or die moments, the collar tie is usually present. I debated on whether or not to include this grip, the double hand grip, as it often happens at the start of Adele's matches, but it's crucial in getting Adele into her guard, so we're including it too.
Instead of just shooting, most people shoot like shin to shin. Tony will do the zoink.
Yoink.
The yoink. He'll do that. Some people just shoot the reverse de la Hiva in. She can just shoot straight in and pull. Reverse de la Hiva. She'll also do, it's kind of like a two-touch, kind of like a soccer move. So she'll go the far leg, inside leg.
And these are the main grips that Adele uses. But what really makes her guard come to life is her ability to change into and out of these different grips. All of these different grips can be overwhelming, but don't worry because BJJ Mental Models might have the right solution for you. With over 50 plus hours of audio masterclasses from the best minds in the sport, like Adele, you gain access to the best BJJ community on the internet, including an exclusive invite to the private BJJ Mental Models Discord, featuring over 70 elite level black belts from all around the world. And I really like their coaching coaching tier, where you receive world-class sparring analysis, get detailed technical feedback from their all-star black belt review team featuring over 20 world champions, and much, much more, which you can start right now with a 7-day free trial just by clicking on this link, or type in my offer code ALEC for 50% off your first month. All of this to get Adele into one guard position. And while the grips are important, making her way into the closed guard wouldn't be possible without great lower body control. From her Z or knee shield guard, Adele often escapes her bottom leg and uses that to pull into her closed guard. I also like to do this kind of elevation from the knee shield, but it can be kind of tricky.
Yeah,
I feel like
I think I get it from here. So over the back grip, pull them onto your shin, and elevate right to close guard.
While some opponents will do most of the work for her whenever they try to pummel in their legs, other opponents will even walk themselves into Adele's closed guard willingly. But I think after this video, they might reconsider this strategy. Once in the closed guard, Adele's real game begins, and Adele's focus is all on controlling posture. So let's watch her in action.
Close guard. Now we've seen how aggressive Adele's close guard can be.
First, Adele makes use of all the same grips that we mentioned earlier.
So when he goes to frame, start pummeling, moving your body. And then a lot of the same grips we used earlier, tricep grip, overhook grip, over the back grip. Okay, the same grip she uses in her knee shield guard, right?
But what really stands out to me is just how active she is in the closed guard, always hand fighting for better positioning, controlling her opponent's head, and most importantly, always looking to attack. And one technique is key in her accomplishing this. The body triangle from closed guard has been around for a long time, but was viewed as a way to stall.
Guard. A lot of times people will lock this, and if they're not very active, they'll get called for stalling rather quickly, but she's staying very active from here.
However, Adele makes use of the body triangle by putting constant pressure against her opponent's lower back, which allows her to lock in her hips at the optimal angle for her attacks. So the body triangle is a game changer for Adele.
I can't do it, but I'll put her in the video at that point. So one way she controls her opponents, obviously hand fighting, controlling, but she'll lock her body triangle. And what that does, guys, it kind of locks into lower back. So I can't do it, but imagine I was able to lock his lower back in. It'll be hard for him to posture up. So if you try to posture up now, if I had his lower back locked, it's gonna be rough. And then the second thing with this is that she can use that to lock like the optimal angle for her submissions later on. So she's able to like move her hips out and then lock her body triangle. And they're just not able to do anything because she's already taken everything away from them.
But she also makes great use of one other technique that leads into her most powerful attack. Using a collar tie with one arm and underhooking the leg with the other arm. This move that I nicknamed the monkeys in a barrel is a simple technique that puts Adele in the perfect position. From here, Adele can go for her favorite submission, the armbar, repeatedly ending up in this crazy belly up position, or even finishing with just the overhook. And it's one of the setups that Adele has mastered.
What's your best move in Jiu Jitsu?
My best move in Jiu Jitsu? Well, that's a tough one. I have a lot of moves that I really, really like, but I'd have to say one of my best ones is an armbar from guard. It was one of the very first submissions I ever learned when I started training Jiu Jitsu, and I still to this day absolutely love it.
Can you guys see? You guys remember the toy with the monkey and the red monkey? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I named this myself. I'm taking credit for this. So from the closed guard, Adele goes collar tie. Other hand's gonna go underhook. She can play with the body triangle, but from here I just call this monkeys in a barrel, okay? And then from here she's able to move her hips up. And she can lock her guard, but just notice I start getting that arm sectioned off, okay? From here we have a few different options. Sometimes they start to pull their arm, and the arm's there, okay? She can just go arm bar, here. One thing that happened a lot in her matches, the person would, I'll have you fall to this way, Tony. So she would end up in these positions and just using her core, she would just like come all the way up. Like no hands on the floor, she would just pop up. So she's a strong girl, okay? That's one thing she would do. Another thing she can do, you know, say I still have this overhook kind of position. She can get here and lock in the overhook armbar too.
Like many of you viewers, my first introduction to Adele was during ADCC 2024 when she hit this amazing move.
Go off of this arm. This is that arm lock I was talking about earlier. She can get down to the elbow and create an angle. Yeah, she's gonna try it. She's gonna try it. That's the arm lock I was talking about. She got it.
Adele Fornarino.
Named after legendary UFC fighter Frank Mir, with his version of the mirror lock being like hitting a nail with a sledgehammer, powerful yet inefficient. But Adele's mirror lock is different. It's all about precision. Locking up the overhook, Adele's opponents realistically have 3 different actions that they can take. Of course, they can just get mirror locked, but the most common response is trying to pull their arm out. Yet again, Adele has the unique ability to stick to her opponents, so that pulling their arm out actually makes her attack stronger. Option 2, my favorite by the way, is when the opponent begins to sense the danger, so they instead try to grab their own arm to protect it. But all I can say is that it's a trap, as this telegraphs that Adele has the mirror lock set, with a 100% submission rate supporting this. Lastly, the opponent can try to pummel their hand back in, where Adele can do this move, the arm drag.
So her mirror lock, she actually has a mirror lock system. So Frank Mir, I think I use this analogy that it's like hitting a nail with the sledgehammer, you know, like rah, boom. But when Adele does her mirror lock, it's very precise, okay? For basics, the mirror lock is the overhook grip here. And instead of grabbing under, this is kind of how I kind of learned how to do it. She grabs over, almost like a guillotine grip, okay? From here, she's gonna go, if she had a body triangle locking this way, this foot goes on the hip, and then she goes, instead of going here, she goes up to her shoulder. So usually, I mean, sometimes she just gets it right from the start, but there's like 2 or 3 responses, okay? So usually people start to feel this, one response, they try to pull their arm out. But you can imagine, I lose this all the time, but Adele has an ability to stay on this arm somehow. So a lot of times when they start to pull, they actually make it stronger and she gets like a better angle. Option 2, they feel this, so now they go to grab with this outside hand, yeah. And I'll tell you, every time someone does this, she gets the mirror lock.
Yeah, now it's bent, yeah.
Yeah. Option 3, they're gonna try to pummel this arm back under. Can you see? Go ahead, Tony. Yeah. They're gonna try to pummel back under. So they try to come under, and then from here, Adele switches to arm drag. I gotta let her do it, man. She's the queen of it, man. I couldn't copy that one.
We can't bring up Adele's attacks without talking about her triangle. Second only to her armbar, Adele uses a very classical setup, but therein lies its effectiveness. I really like how she manages to create space where there is none, as well as how she frames up high on the shoulder and then moves down the arm, followed closely by her knee and shin, for one of the most effective triangles in the game. This setup might be simple, but her ability to attach herself to her opponents really shines here, because even though they know what's coming, they can't stop it. And these are the best submissions.
One thing Adele's really good at that I like is that, you know, when her opponents start pummeling in or whatever, she's always able to pummel back. You know, maybe by sitting up, repummeling. And instead of going straight for their arm, usually what she does, I really like that she kind of frames off the shoulder and then she starts moving down. I really like that. That was something I noticed, okay? And then from here, that shin comes in, guys. Shin, usually she'll start pushing the arm away. You can try to do like old school, boom, that way. One thing I've been doing more lately is just pushing. And then once she gets her triangle, pretty tight, you know. I don't have the longest legs, so a lot of times I've been doing my TP choke, where I grab under my own legs and kind of squeezing. You can try to do your traditional triangle setup, guys, if you have the legs for it. Control the head, pull down, and lock. You know, if you have good control, even against black belts, you know, you're controlling the posture, you start opening this, I mean, man, there's not much they can do. It's like they know what's happening, But those are the best submissions, just bread and butter, as the Brazilians say. You know, what did the Italians say? Pasta and what?
Yeah.
Pasta and what, Tony?
Pasta and gravy. Yeah.
Pasta and gravy, okay?
Speaking of a classical approach, Adele also uses a traditional move that you never see at black belt. Making use of her talent at connecting herself to her opponent, Adele can counter with the sit-up guard whenever they try to posture up by leaning their weight back onto their legs. But I can't stress enough how hard this is to hit in actual competition, and every time she does it, I can't help but cheer her on. Playing close guard and getting submissions is great, but at the highest level, some people will find their way out. And when that happens, Adele has other games that she can transition into, like this De La Hiva, or she can just cycle through her knee shield and Z guard to get back to her close guard. But what happens when her opponents choose not to engage her guard? The double guard pull is a strategy often used in the lighter weight classes as a way to not engage the guard directly. Since most smaller fighters tend to have great guards, this strategy forgoes passing altogether. But Adele is a massive threat here as well, submitting several competitors within seconds, especially with her killer Aoki lock, the false reap, and this Troy bar attack.
Yeah, she's still got that foot grip. Well, here comes Troy bar. So Brianna's arm got extended. She's got to get past the arm. That's an arm lock. That's a nice arm lock she's got there. Here comes the arm over the top. She'll throw the leg through.
There it is, yep. Adele Fornarino attacking the arm of Pia Mesquita. She's inverting. I think she's got an armbar, Sean Williams. And she scores in the triangle.
From watching Adele, I can't overstate enough how important hand fighting is and how you have to stay active in making your grips while fighting off your opponent's grips. And that's how Adele controls her matches and sets up her submissions. But she struggles the most against opponents that dominate her grips. Adele is also a beast on her feet, and I found it interesting that she uses the same grips there as well. So my guard players out there should think about that for a unique approach to Jiu-Jitsu that I know we can all appreciate, bridging the gap not only between classical Jiu-Jitsu and modern Jiu-Jitsu, but also upper limb attacks and lower body attacks. One thing is certain, Adele Fornarino is changing BJJ forever.